All right. Hello, everyone. I'm not sure how many are out there, but I know that Mu Skeptic is here. He's been texting already or chatting. Um, we're going to have another edition. I have Fake PhD Investigator joining us here.
Hello.
Oh, hang on. Give me 1 second. I have an echo here. I got to get rid of a.
Okay, sounds good. Luckily, I don't have an echo here, so yeah, we're about to talk about Rashad Richey again. Guess that's
I
why
had
I'm
the
here.
channel open in another window, and it was coming back on me, and I was like, "Oh shoot!" But at any rate, I have Fake PhD Investigator here joining tonight. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Fake PhD Investigator. I investigate, questionable or fake degrees online, and post about it on Twitter, Blue Sky, and on Substack. And I'm
And
here
who is?
for, Rashad Richey, our favorite faker.
I was just going to ask, who's the best of them all?
Yeah. So
uh,
Rashad Richey is just entertaining because he keeps coming up with new scams, new fake degrees, and it just he just keeps doing it. It's fun. It's entertaining, I guess, for us.
yeah, and he's become aware that we are chiding him for his fake PhDs because now he's rolling them out, but he's not putting them up on LinkedIn. He's hoping that we won't spot it. But unfortunately for him, we got a hold of his agronomical physics master's thesis out of a Haitian university. And I did a video on it already, and it's god awful. Oh my gosh, it's a riot. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you go to my channel and you'll find pretty recently that I did a cover of his master's thesis. Anything else you want to tell us about yourself there, Fick?
About Rashad Richey, I guess the way he gets to us is that in that the way we keep covering him is because he pretends to be very intelligent, and that just kind of it just doesn't sit right, and he keeps coming up with these ways that where he pretends to be this highly educated, highly intelligent person, and frankly, I don't think he can even do basic math.
It's not just that he tries to pass himself off as intelligent, but he considers himself a real Renaissance man.
Yeah, a polymath. Remember that video
Oh,
from
that's
a
right.
short
Yeah,
while?
and we're gonna have to show the public here that latest claim. Oh, it's amazing. So let
um,
me go ahead and share a screen. And oh, by the way, I should mention I'm Johnny Walker Dread. I have the Johnny Walker Dread channel. Mostly what I covered in the past was the Kyle Rittenhouse case. I have over 400 videos covering Kyle, including interviews of the witnesses and all that. So if the Kenosha shootings interest you, you definitely want to go to my channel and subscribe. But I also have been hammering on Rashad Richey mercilessly to the point where his lawyer even threatened to sue me in my comment section of videos. I mean, you got to be kidding me. So, at any rate, he does not like me one lick. But I can't stand him because I hate phonies. He's a total phony. You cannot believe 5% of what he says, and you're going to see that tonight as well. And let's see here. Oh, I think we should just go ahead and get started.
yeah.
Are we
So
ready to go?
we were chatting, and I guess we were looking up his criminal record, court records about Rashad Richey. That's kind of where this came from.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and I'll share the screen and you can just lead in and tell us about this screen here.
Okay,
Give me one
so
second.
Rashad Richey's been claiming, hey, I'm this reformed bad guy. I used to have a lot of trouble in my youth. Now I'm educated. I've always been interested in science. I have a proper job. I have a house, mortgage, all this kind of stuff. And the claim doesn't exactly check out. Gail
Yeah, to
Buckner,
say
yeah,
the
who
least.
is that? Well, Gail Gail Buckner is a coworker, essentially a former coworker of Rashad Richey's at the Democratic Party of Georgia, and they used to work together. And she, I guess, had every reason to trust him and rented him a house or an apartment. I believe in an apartment, right? Um, in 2010, 2011, thereabouts. Well, guess what? Rashad Richey proceeded to trash the place uh, beyond recognition and never paid rent.
I'll have
So
to
he caused yeah. So Gail
hang
Buckner is
on.
the victim in this case.
Yeah, let's see here. I had. Oh wait, here's where it is. Okay, here.
Yeah,
Can I
what are you
share this?
looking up?
This is from a person named Brian, and he sent. I guess it was you an email. Can I share this?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's was very interesting. Um,
Okay,
so this
go ahead, read
person
it.
is asking Gail Buckner. What? Yeah. Hi, Mrs. Buckner. My name is Brian. I've been looking into Rashad Richey's background for my blog exposing fraudsters. After finding the 2021 legal case from Gwinnett County, I'm just wondering if he ever paid the rent money.
Well,
No, he did not pay the rent, she says.
before we
Yeah.
go any further, I think
Yeah.
you need to introduce who Rashad Richey is. I don't know if everybody knows who this guy is.
Oh, yeah. Rashad Richey, a very self-important person. He's a radio host in Atlanta. I guess he's sort of known in Atlanta. It's a bit of a local celebrity. He's been trying to make his name nationally as well. He's um, a race baiter, I guess, on YouTube. That's kind of what he does for a living, I guess. With about 1 million subscribers to his YouTube channel, and
That's him there.
of which we don't know how many are legit, but that's neither here nor there. Um, and he's just a he's uh, he's an exaggerator.
Yeah,
So he's been saying all of his bad behaviors in his past, and he's gone way beyond that. Now he's an educated man, a physics professor, a lawyer, all this sort of thing. And so back in 2011, he didn't pay rent. He trashed the place. He caused, I believe, yeah, it's $20,000 or $30,000 in damage to Gail Buckner's, rental home. And she says, no, he did not pay the rent, and he trashed my house. Something horrible. I used him and won a 15,000 judgment, $15,000 presumably. That money just scratched the surface to cover the damage he did. And so this, I guess, comes from. Then we looked up those court cases, right? Do you want to pull up that website?
yeah.
So there's
Well, I'll tell you
a
what.
there's
Yeah.
there's a website I can just explain that. Um,
Well, I'll tell you what. I could show
George,
you this as well.
yeah,
This is the actual lawsuit filed by Gail against him,
oh yeah, in
and
2014, she filed a lawsuit against Rashad Richey, who was gainfully employed at the time and not making any payments on that rent. So at this point, the rent was 3 years overdue. Um, she sued him for $17,600 in unpaid rent and utilities. So I guess he never. Oh yeah, August 2011 till June 2013. So I guess he never paid rent. He just never paid rent.
never
She
paid it.
couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
Oh,
not
but
a
here,
thing.
this is where it gets interesting.
Well, go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
read that.
Due to the extensive property damage caused by defendant, plaintiff also suffered approximately $38,500 in additional damages because of the devaluation of her home. And it says
Okay, so
here that the she had to spend nearly $1,800 to have trash hauled off the premises and to clean up and exterminate. This guy's a pig.
okay,
I mean, what a
he's just
pig.
living it. He's just living in filth. So I don't know. He was probably not having a good time at that point in his life. We know he was an alcoholic for some time, and this is sort of around the time where he got uh, DUIs. I believe he's got 3 DUIs, um, all like 2 years apart or something.
Hmm.
somewhere in the 2000s, 2012 to 2017 range, something like that.
Oh, by the way, one of the DUIs I covered on one of my previous shows, and he not only did he hit somebody, it wasn't just a DUI, he crashed his car into somebody else, but he fled from the police and they had to run him down. And it's hilarious. He was so drunk that he actually thought that the other guy had hit him. And and I
So
forgot
we
also to mention, he actually passed out while standing up and hit his head on the concrete curb. Now, I've been drunk
hasn't been
before.
right since. Yeah.
I hope to hell he had a lot to drink because I have never been that drunk. And I drink. I got one tonight. But yeah, that's truly amazing.
So
But
the new revelation, I guess, is this guy. He was, 2014. She got a judgment on this. I think in 2014, even, or maybe 2015. Anyway, this went to court. Rashad never replied. She got a judgment, and then if you want to pull up those court cases,
yeah, okay. Give me 1 second. So here are the court
it was,
cases against him.
so Buckner
And
versus Richey. So we got the 2015, and then we have if you click on that, yeah. So there's three: Gail Buckner versus Rashad Richey. Click on the 2015, and then we can see that he had a garnishment against. He was working, I guess, for CBS Radio of Atlanta at the time, and that was who his wages were garnished from for this judgment. And I guess I know he didn't work for CBS for very long, so she probably didn't get much out of that garnishment.
yeah, and I have a feeling that CBS was not thrilled in having a person who basically trash somebody's home working for them. This is a high profile position.
Yeah. So this was CBS. This was the time he did his documentary, his Emmy award-winning documentary.
Oh my God. Okay, I have a
So
video on that. He claims constantly that he's an Emmy nominated um, media performer. He's a Southeastern Emmy nominated performer, and if you look at the list of people who've been nominated, essentially, if you're a media person in the Atlanta area, you're going to get nominated. But
that's
anyway,
you're in there, yeah.
I had a lot of fun because it's horrible, terrible, terrible writing, terrible production. And at any rate, I have a video on that, and I had a lot of fun with it.
So anyway, he his wages were garnished there. He didn't work there for long, and of course he didn't pay. He didn't end up paying any further. He still had his radio job at this time, so he wasn't making payments on this judgment, so she got a garnishment. That wasn't working out though, and so if you go back, we see that Gail Buckner, probably not very wealthy lady, got fed up. Remember, she still had to pay $38,000 to have her home repaired on her own dime. And in 2021, she filed another case, this time in Gwinnett County. The other one was Fulton County, and had. So let's backtrack. In September 2020, Rashad Richey moved into a 3,800 square foot mansion in a suburb of Atlanta, and paid $505,000 for that. So there we go. He got that mortgage, but he couldn't pay that lady. So half a year later, she files for a garnishment of his, this time not of his wages, but from his bank account. You can see that
Mhm.
the garnishee here is J.P. Morgan Chase. So she had to garnish her rent money from 2011, 10 years later, from his bank account. This guy was rolling in money at the time, in his, in his Mercedes convertible. He just bought a new mansion, and there he is not paying this retired lady her rent money, and had to be garnished directly. So his uh, his his bad boy days aren't really behind him.
No, and everybody talks about how successful he is. It's a lot easier to be successful when you don't have to pay your bills.
You're right. It's not paying your bills. Yeah. Who knows what
Yeah.
else? Go back into that search. What other bills isn't he paying? Because there are other bills.
That I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
there's I think $1,500. If you go, well, search for just Richie, Rashad.
oh,
There'll be another case
okay, I did
popping.
not do that. Let's
Yeah.
see. Okay,
Just that
where?
search box says search. No, in the center.
Okay,
Yeah.
for
Just
some reason I'm not seeing the
where you
search.
have all.
Oh, right
Okay,
here.
it's right there. Yeah. Just put in Richie, Rashad, and then we'll see. There's a couple other cases popping up.
Oh, there's a whole bunch.
Yeah, two probate cases. So maybe he lived off of some inheritance for a while. But there's also Rashad Richey versus Andre Walker. That sounds like Rashad sued
Okay,
somebody.
wait a
Click on
minute.
that. Whether
I
he
know who
was
Rondre Walker is. This one here.
Andre Walker.
Yeah, he's the one that
Yeah.
has the blog. I
Who
think
is
he's
that?
out of Oklahoma.
Oh, that's right. He sued him. That's right. Yeah, he sued
Yeah,
that guy
that's
directly.
right.
Yeah, that's was the
Uh,
case. Yeah, but there's I forget now, but there's another case where somebody sues Rashad for some money,
okay,
and
well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it here. We'll see. I'll
yeah,
give it
don't
one
worry
more
about
shot.
that.
Yeah.
But this is also where his DUIs pop up, and lo and behold, we find that I believe his 2014 DUI. I know he has maybe it was a 2012 incident, but in 2014 he was sentenced to 5 years probation. So the last of his probation ran out in 2019.
Okay. Yeah. So it was only a few years ago.
A few years ago, and then in 2021 he had to have his bank account garnished, or money garnished from his bank account.
Yeah. And there's one more thing here. Oh,
So
got it.
there's no shortage of cases against Rashad Richey, and these aren't like way in the past. This is recent stuff.
Yeah. There's one photo I wanted to show, but for some reason, I thought I pulled it over. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Okay. So here's a mug shot, and you'll notice
Yeah.
his shirt is all bloodied up. And this is a mug shot from his domestic violence charge. Um, this is a guy who likes to claim that, well, he grew up on the rough side of the tracks, and when he was really young, he was dealing drugs and stuff like that. No, he's not that
Okay.
young
I don't know if you
here.
can hear me, but my connection is not
I can
allowing me
hear
to
you.
hear anybody.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay, I don't know if anybody's hearing me, but um at any rate, his past transgressions are not the stuff of romantic stuff at all. I mean, this is not street cred. This guy beat his girlfriend and he got drunk, smashed his car into somebody else's. He is a real low life. Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. I hope I didn't.
So
But at any rate, let me just so in case anybody missed it, he's all bloodied up here in this mugshot, and this is from his domestic violence issues. So, yeah, he is not a good dude at all.
yeah, and he just likes to have people believe that was in his past. I mean, he's graduated to the more white collar fraud at this point, but we've discussed
Mhm.
that before. That
Okay,
doesn't mean
so
he's cleaned up his act.
All right. Are we ready to move on to something else, or do you want? Is there any
Oh,
more to say?
oh, I'd love to. Yeah. Do you want to talk about his latest claims to fame?
Okay. Well, I tell you what. Let me show you this. And you had something to mention about his iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio. That's right. He on his LinkedIn anyway. He claims that he's an iHeartRadio podcast host. Interestingly, I went to that just to check it out, and it turns out he got fired from that show, or from having his show hosted on iHeartRadio. They weren't thrilled with it apparently because in March 2024 is his last show on there. So I think it was only on there for a few months before they decided to pull the plug. They probably weren't getting the viewer or listenership that they were hoping.
Okay, so let's see
And
here. Oh, here we go. This is excellent.
okay.
Dr.
So
Richie,
this is
go
very
ahead.
interesting. So what was it like a year ago? I don't know. I exposed Rashad's network of phony websites that praised just himself, and they were all owned by him, operated by him or his marketing team. Anyway, he took down those websites. Now he put it back up. Nobody's noticing anymore. So he's got his fake science news watch, fake news website up here, and he's got another article, by himself, presumably.
Okay, I should step in because we're not giving ourselves enough credit here. We are the ones that exposed Science News Watch as one of his little what would you call that? He tries
It's
to
a
pass it
fake.
off as
It's a fake
go ahead.
news website. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a fake news website. It pulls stories from syndicated stories from news agencies, so like the AP Wire services or whatever, and then he sprinkles in stories about himself. So as you can see there, up in the center of the website, there's a column, section "Scientists to Know." Well, that's just him. You know, if you wondering about which scientist you should know, it's him. It's him and his herbalist master healer there. Uh,
Well, okay, so
uh,
what I find funny about this is that when you read this, okay, so he is there, he is
he,
lecturing a bunch of
he's
students.
he's presenting himself as a university professor that he's absolutely not.
Mhm. And he talks about wireless energy transfer using soft materials, nanocrystals, and plant stem parts. But when you read this, it's pretty clear to me that what he's demonstrating is a crystal radio. The
Christopher,
back in
yeah.
the old
Well,
days, the very earliest radios used a crystal, the vibrations of a crystal, to capture the frequency, the um, electromagnetic transfer from the airwaves. And I'm really slaughtering this because I've had a little bit of this here. I mean, I know my E&M a lot better than I'm making it sound. But at any rate, when you read this, and these crystal radios were very weak, and they got replaced around maybe early 1900s. But you can still get kits to create one. I think I had one from Heathkit at one time back in the day when I was into amateur radio. And it looks like he's got a hold of one of those kits because he's talking about sending out signals through the electromagnetic spectrum, and his crystals are capturing that and allowing the students to feel the vibration. I mean, I
it's
mean,
called a
so
radio, yeah.
so congratulations, Rashad. You discovered something that was discovered back in around 1890.
So,
Um,
but very interesting about this article, it doesn't mention anywhere where he gave this lecture. It doesn't say university. That's apparently a secret here. And let's comment on this picture. Uh,
mhm.
this picture is supposed to show, I guess, some instrumentation or some sophisticated scientific apparatus. Well, I looked this up because that red lamp looked very familiar, and yes, indeed, it's a $40 infrared heat lamp that you can buy on Amazon, and it does absolutely nothing to nanocrystals. Has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, because I mean, infrared is really, really low frequency, large wavelength dispersive stuff that's not going to have any effect on a radio or
It,
whatever
it
device
just
you're trying to claim.
this Rashad saw this somewhere and thought, "Hey, this fancy colored light looks scientific. I'll get this, for a picture."
Yeah, and of course, this Science News Watch has all of the material that he's written numerous times in the past and has published, trying to make it sound like somebody else is writing this, but he wrote this.
Even
I mean,
or
there's no doubt about it.
we know he's got a marketing person that works very closely with him,
Well,
and
yeah, I mean,
some of the wording is definitely him because nobody else would write that kind of stuff.
yeah, it's amazing. Okay, so let's see here. What else do we have? Oh yeah. Give me 1 second here.
You go to LinkedIn or Twitter.
Well, let's do this.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So this is his newest social media post. And what was he saying in this? Can you give some context?
Oh yeah, I got that up here. Okay, give me a second. Yeah, here we go. So I'll read it out loud.
Yeah, go
Demonstrating
ahead.
the medical applications of newly developed phononic nanocrystal crystalline technology to scientists and doctors. Thankful to my dedicated lab techs, physics students, and supporters, peer reviewed publication pending. Wow. And you know where that's going to be published, right?
I know where that's, yeah, in the International Journal of Science and Research.
International Journal
Um,
of Science and
yeah.
Research. Let me
So,
scroll down.
wow. So, hey, let me just look at this. This looks great. Scroll back up. So he's he's researching some nanocrystal technology, and he's
Mhm.
presenting it to scientists and doctors, and there's pictures of exactly what he's doing there. Well, let's examine those pictures more closely.
Okay, I've got that somewhere here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there he is, and
So there's a top left picture, and uh, let's look at the top left picture. It looks familiar. I'd seen him post pictures with that background before, and I was curious. So I looked up pictures from his house. Oh no. So this is Rashad Richey's house. I don't know, for whatever reason. Pictures are online, and there's the fireplace. And if you look at at the tiles on the fireplace, yes, that's exactly his place. It matches exactly. So wait, this is in his home. Okay, that's cool. He's posting a picture of his home. Okay, what's the next picture? Top right. That is also his home, and those are presumably the scientists and doctors that he's showing around. Wait, he's in his home wearing a lab coat? This is his basement, by the way. That's the top right
oh, is it the
picture.
basement?
Yeah, that's the basement. So these these scientists, okay, whatever he wants to wear a lab coat at his home, that's cool. Then at the bottom left, that's a picture of his kitchen counter. Correct. He's in a lab coat, showing two people who definitely don't look like doctors. Frankly, they look like students. Um, he's showing them a multimeter on his own kitchen counter. So I'm not sure what that's supposed to signify, but it's clearly not a lab. He doesn't have a lab. He has a kitchen. Um, by the way, his cooking platform doesn't have an exhaust hood. That just bothers me. Um, so, but that's that kitchen. That's his kitchen. There's pictures on Zillow of exactly the setup. He hasn't changed a thing since he moved in 2020. So, and then the bottom right, we see a crystal. That's right. He's working with nanocrystals. Now, what's behind that crystal? Oh, that's right. It's a cabinet from his kitchen. That's his nanocrystal. That's about the size of a fist.
I know.
I mean, that is so hilarious. It's totally absurd and ridiculous. Nobody who thinks more than a few seconds looking at these pictures will think that he's actually in a lab inventing anything. It's just complete show. And the picture above that, That's also his basement. That's his little lab set up in his basement. In the background, you can see his treadmill. I mean,
The
it's just
treadmill. That's
absurd.
very important.
Yeah,
This is very
very very
exhausting work.
important lab setup. Yeah. So I mean, it's hilarious. It's absurd, but the one thing is he posted this on LinkedIn too, and a lady who's been a doctor for decades, a well-known doctor, she's like, "Oh, you do everything so well, Rashad. Congratulations." I mean, he's fooling people who won't spend a second, investigating or even thinking about this. They're just like, "Oh, great, you do well," and then they move on. Obviously, I mean, either he pays them or they just don't pay attention to this because, I mean, it's so fake. Everything is so incredibly fake, and he's trying to make himself look like this highly educated, lab professor doing medical research of nano crystals. Nanocrystals used mostly for, in pharmaceutical applications, I guess. And so it's just so absurd.
You know what's missing? He needs a
What?
Jacob's ladder. You
Yeah.
know, you see him
Yeah.
in Frankenstein movies, right? The little spark that goes up between those two wires. That's what he needs.
Uh,
Oh
so
my god!
yeah,
And the other
it's
thing is like the lab coat is just wonderful. I mean, like, dude, what chemicals are you working with
yeah.
that would require that? Uh, it used to really bother me when I was teaching at the college level, and these students would walk around with their lab coats on, and I would tell them, look, if there's anything on your lab coat, I don't want you walking around people. So we have a little like there's a box that you put your lab coat in for cleaning. You put your lab coat in there, and then you go outside. But they would walk around
Yeah.
and go to classes with their lab coats on because it makes them look smart, and he
Well, it's
thinks
just
that he is
that's
just
yeah. Well, it's totally ridiculous. Maybe his glasses are fake too. Who knows? But if you scroll back down to the kitchen picture, I think I actually identified. Yeah, scroll all the way to the left. Um, that multimeter that's just sitting
yeah.
there is whatever is $15 multimeter or whatever that is, right? His lab equipment. I think it's actually plugged into a candle next to it. Do you think that's a candle? It kind of looks like a candle.
I can't see, but any kind of
Yeah,
medical research that you're going to be doing on nanoparticles, you're going to need some really good equipment. Um, and I know
yeah. You like
because
a clean? You're gonna work in like a level 5 clean lab or something like that, or level 6 even. I don't know, but it's definitely not his kitchen counter.
well, you're dealing with crystals on the order of 100 nanometers or smaller. That's a tenth of a millimeter. Um, that chunk of whatever it looks to me, I kind of feel like that's just good old rock candy. Does it not
Well,
look like rock candy?
it looks like either what I think. Well, he could have just ordered a crystal, bought one online. But I think what he did is to feel like a scientist. He bought one of those crystal growing kits that you would gift like a 7-year-old, and he grew his own crystal, and now he's all proud of this crystal.
You may be right. Although I'm still sticking with my rock candy
Yeah.
explanation. And by the way,
Uh,
if that is professionally grown crystal, that is a horrible crystal. Oh my God. It's all fractured, it's got all
no, no,
kinds of defects.
I think it's from a growing kit. I don't know, right? Because
Yeah, I think you're right.
that would make him feel smart.
Yeah, I like the tie too. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
Um, but I will say this. I have known a
Uh,
lot of physics professors over the time. Okay. And I don't think any of them ever dressed like that.
no,
They would look and feel like, what the hell?
I don't know a physics professor that's worn a tie in probably I don't know. Who knows? Probably 30
Oh
years or who
yeah.
knows.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me look and see what else we got here.
I think those
Um,
are the main things we had. We just want to make fun of him for trying to appear smart when he's clearly not. But he's
yeah.
so
Oh,
desperate, to showcase that. We've uncovered him. Then he took down his website. but he can't live without that praise from his online followers. So yeah.
So this is another picture. Did you ever identify who this person is?
I did not. It must be. I think this is Morgan State. Is this correct?
I think it's Morgan State. Yeah.
Yeah, Morgan State. We did identify the instrument. Oh, what did I identify that as? It's kind of, yeah. Anyway, I
That's an
found the
electron
instrument online.
microscope. That looks like an
Yeah,
electron microscope. Yeah.
yeah. It is an electron microscope. But we identified the make and model too. So because there aren't that many out there, clearly.
And there's this
And
crystal.
crystal, yes, you can put that in an electron microscope. I don't know what you would do with that because clearly you're not publishing anything on it. And and in the top left picture, that could be like an XRD thing, X-ray diffraction, because that's something you do on crystals as well, X-ray diffractometry. Um, but yeah, he just took pictures in a lab really because he knows people there. And who does he know there? Oh yes, Willie Rockward, right? What's his name again?
Oh, really
That's
Rockward.
that's where he that's where he got those pictures taken because that
Oh,
guy
can I tell the
is
story? Can I tell the story?
yeah. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so this is really funny. I don't know how it happened, although I have a sneaky suspicion it was really Rockward. But really, really, Willie Rockward is a physics professor at Morgan State University, and he's a big time buddy of Rashad Richey. Why? I have no idea. But evidently, and I have no proof of this, but we do know that Rashad Richey was invited to speak at the National Society of Black Physicists. It was the November 23 conference. Okay.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling it was really Willie Rockward that invited him. So Rashad gets up there and makes an absolute fool of himself. He gets up there and he speaks a bunch of nonsense and all that. So I email the head of the National Society of Black Physicists and Willie Rockward, who was the former president, and told them, you guys got totally bamboozled by this man. He has no physics background at all. He's never completed an undergraduate degree in physics, and I don't think he's ever completed a single course. And judging by his book in physics that he wrote, he doesn't know a Hamiltonian from a Lagrangian. Okay, that's a little inside joke there. Okay, so I send this email to those two guys. The one guy, I forget his name, who's the current president, wrote back and said, "Yeah, in no uncertain terms, yeah, there is a lot of issues with this guy." The other one threatened to sue me and basically told me that I don't want to hear any more about Rashad Richey. And then I come later.
Yeah, Willie Rockward threatened to sue you for talking ill of Rashad Richey. Now, Willie Rockward is outwardly a physics professor, an actual professor. I mean, his
Mhm.
accomplishments aren't high, but for Morgan State
No.
University, which is not a top university, maybe that's just where that goes. But he seems to be an actual physicist, whereas and an actual physicist would immediately know that Rashad Richey knows absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and then Chris Harding, who shows up a lot in my comment section, he tells me that Willie Rockward is Rashad Richey's advisor at Paris Graduate School. Now, I haven't
That's right.
confirmed it, but it so makes sense. It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the
But
goings on are, but go ahead.
yeah, well, that would actually open up an avenue for complaint to Morgan State University. I know it's a HBCU, so they're not going to do anything, but maybe some other entities would be interested in Willie Walkward associating himself with a fake school in Paris.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, before I forget, um, you cannot perform physics experiments as a professor in your own home. Not allowed. Can't do it. The university
I
will never go for that.
Oh,
So
I've got an idea. It just came to an idea. Why don't we find out what Rashad Richey's home insurer is? and let them know that he's performing, advanced scientific experiments with dangerous chemicals in his home.
Well, I have no proof that he's doing anything dangerous. I mean,
Well,
he's not rock.
we could
I mean,
just
I don't
send
know
them
if
that
rock
picture.
candy is dangerous.
You know, we'll send the insurer those pictures that he's posting himself online, and they can judge for themselves whether he's repurposed his home into
Yeah, you can
a
do it if you want, but I don't think I'm
a
going to go there.
chemical lab. The way he claims, if his claims are true, his home insurance might go up quite a bit.
Yeah, and my understanding of it, by the way, is that if you're dealing with nanocrystals, you have to use respirators.
Clearly, yeah.
So
Why wouldn't
yeah,
you? They don't. But in also nanocrystals, you don't just make them in a beaker. They don't. They
no.
don't just float around in there. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. And yeah. Anyway, so
Okay,
fake,
but
fake, fake.
all right, let me see what else I have here. If there's anything, I don't want to miss anything. Just passing through the links. Another mugshot. This one here, I think that was. Oh, and I don't want to say because I'm not sure.
I mean that is in the past. I mean but things that are more current. I'm much more willing to roast them on that.
I think that covers it. I think I have shown
Okay.
all of the links that I have, that we were going to discuss.
Yeah.
I'm going to also talk about the Daniel Penny thing. Is that something that interests you, or do you want to go ahead and take off for the night?
Yeah, I'm going to sign off for that. I mean, interesting case for me personally, but not as fake PhD investigator. So I'll
Sure.
sign off. Yeah.
Is there anything else I'm
Okay.
missing before we go?
No, I think we've talked about all these things, and it's been entertaining to discover them. And I hope Rashad is watching and feels called out.
Yeah. And by the way, Erica Wilson, who is Rashad's lawyer, don't threaten to sue me in the comment section. That is purely unethical. Go back to law school and learn how to do this properly. Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, have a good night, and I'll keep
Hey,
watching your
thanks for
show.
coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, everybody. I was also going to talk about the Daniel Penny acquittal. Let me get rid of this stuff here. And I guess you all heard the news. Now, one of the things that's coming out is, well, this is just like Kyle Rittenhouse. The Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted. Daniel Penny was acquitted. This is open season, right? So let me just say it right up front. Kyle Rittenhouse's claim of self-defense is solid. It's 100%. Well, okay, 95%. Okay. There's no doubt about it. He was ambushed, chased, and attacked. He can apply self-defense in that case. The Daniel Penny one isn't quite as clear, but the jurors heard all the evidence. There were numerous eyewitnesses. There was video of most of it, or at least a large part of it. And all 12 came to the same conclusion of not guilty. Now, that doesn't mean that the jury got it right. But this whole idea that somehow that Daniel Penny's guilt was obvious somehow got past all 12 jurors. And before you say, well, they were biased, they're all white. Biased, or I should say all white jurors, they convict in these kind of cases all the time. There's no way that you're going to select 12 people from a juror pool in New York and get all 12 of them MAGAs. This is not going to happen. So evidently, the prosecution in the Daniel Penny case was unable to produce enough evidence to show that Daniel Penny's claim of self-defense was invalid. That is the proper way of phrasing it. Okay? Excuse me. Ugh, this stuff does it to me. The jurors did not find Daniel Penny innocent. The jurors said that the prosecution was unable to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Daniel Penny didn't act properly. All right. That's the way it goes. And for all of you complaining about the verdict, tough noogies. I mean, that's how it works. You know, this is not like OJ. Okay. OJ, nobody saw what happened. There was no video of OJ doing the attack, nothing like that. It was all circumstantial. I think that the circumstantial evidence was pretty strong. If I was on the jury, I probably would have convicted, although I haven't, be honest with you, I haven't looked at it that deeply. But you cannot compare that to a case where there were numerous people who saw what happened. And there was video evidence. And when all 12 come back and say, not guilty, that's a pretty strong statement. So it is not obvious that Daniel Penny was guilty. And based on what I've heard, it looks to me like the jury got it right. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. And if I'm the jury, I don't care if Daniel Penny's white. I don't care if Jordan Neely is black. I just want to know, what is the evidence? Daniel Penny is claiming self-defense. That's an affirmative defense. And like in all 50 states now, the affirmative defense of self-defense has to be disproven by the prosecution. Ohio was the last holdout, but now Ohio has changed its laws. Ohio has changed its laws. And now all 50 states, you have to prove that the claim of self-defense is invalid. The burden of proof is on the prosecution, not the defense. And with that in mind, the jury, in my opinion, had no choice but to render a not guilty verdict. Okay, so before I go show you some videos, because I've got some really good stuff here, let me go through and see what people are saying out there. And we got Cigar Monkey. Oh, yeah, snake oil. Oh, Rashad Richey is the master of it. And it's amazing how he's able to sell it, because keep in mind, he had the Georgia Democratic Party all behind him. The leader of the Georgia Democratic Party rented him his home. So somehow he's able to talk them into giving him a nice, cushy job. And by the way, his party, they got beat in those elections. So Rashad wasn't even successful. But it didn't matter. They went ahead and just gave him everything he wanted. So he's got the silver tongue, man. I'm telling you. Acme nanocrystals. I think that was pretty funny at the moment. I forget what the context was now. My nanocrystal fell down the sink. Call the plumber. Pull out the trap. It's like your wife's wedding ring. Chutzpah. Yeah. I think that's a Jewish term, isn't it? Chutzpah. But you're right. Let's see here. Yeah, this whole thing about, well, he was a Michael Jackson impersonator. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. Doesn't make him less guilty. But it did give a pretty interesting spin to the whole thing. Okay, so we're going to go now to... Oh, I got to share it. Give me 1 second, everybody. I got to find it here. Here we go. And I'm going to be interrupting this one occasionally because I watched it kind of briefly the first time, and yeah, this is pretty funny. Now, these are protesters of the Daniel Penny verdict. And the big dude right there has just got finished, and his leader of BLM is going to take the microphone. And let's listen.
Shavonna Newsom, CHIVONA, I'm the co.
By the way, you may be wondering, well, the audio seems off. It's not synced to the video. This is Roland Martin's show. Roland Martin, if you may not know who he is, but he is a black, he's kind of like a Rashad Richey kind, right? He's got his own YouTube channel and all that. And he complained that the Democratic Party didn't give enough big bucks for the advertising on his show. But this is the quality of the show that he presents. The audio and video are not even synced up. Now, you might think, well, wait a minute. Maybe it wasn't synced up on the original. Then you go in and you do the editing to sync them up. But he didn't. And so, yeah, it's just really bad, but okay.
Co-founder of Black Lives Matter Greater New York. And I'm a devout Christian. And in my Bible, thou shalt not kill. In the Torah, thou shalt not kill. In Buddhism and Hinduism, thou shalt not kill a living thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's probably expressed that way, but okay, fine.
But America has no moral code. America has no soul. Our bloods have paved the streets of this nation since its inception. It was foolish of us to think that a black man would get justice in the system designed to keep him oppressed.
All right, Andrew Coffey IV, on the same day that Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted, he was also acquitted. He claimed self-defense. He shot a cop, and he was acquitted by a jury. Andrew Coffey IV was black. Boy, I guess he still is. So that's ridiculous. And also the dude that, I don't know if you ever remember, he broke into this home in Texas, and there was these two twin boys, and they were young. They're like maybe 2-3 years old. And he took one of them out of the house and killed him, went back to get the other one and was interrupted, and he didn't go to trial. He never went to trial. They declared that he was not fit for a trial, and he never went to trial. So this whole notion somehow that black people can't get justice, they do all the time. And I mentioned also on my show, I had a video that showed that you had 3 people in Detroit that were charged with attempted murder, one of them for trying to burn somebody alive in their home. They got $500 bail, each of them. So, whatever.
My heart bleeds for the Neely family. My heart bleeds for his father, who sat in front of me every single day and prayed for justice for his son. There is no one coming to save black people, or else we wouldn't live in these ghettos, we wouldn't be in these prisons, and we would be further along than we.
She forgets what she's going to say there. She nails down the first two and goes, "Well, wait, what?" I love it.
We wouldn't be at the absolute bottom. So forgive me for being jaded and cynical, but once we saw those non-white jurors, we knew that this case was over. Non-white jurors. How could there not be an uproar that the same person who got off Kyle Rittenhouse, who got off O.J. Simpson, was used here?
Wait, O.J. Simpson? What? I think O.J. was black, right? Am I mistaken here?
And shame on you, celebrities and politicians who claim not to be racist, because the racists spoke loud and clear. John McCain's daughter, she had something to say. I think she incited a riot for the right. Phil Mickelson, he had something to say. Kid Rock donated $3 million. And if you look on social media, if you look at the hatred spewed across against us, against black people, against a man who was sick, because when there's a crisis of drugs in America, I'm sorry, it's only a crisis when it's a white person, an opioid crisis. Jordan was labeled a drug addict and labeled a crackhead. The only crime that Jordan Neely was guilty of was the color of his skin.
Come on.
No, he threatened people. And here's the problem I had. And by the way, I've been battling people on Blue Sky all day. And if you are interested in like good new hunting grounds for arguments about Kyle Rittenhouse and the myth of Black Lives Matter, Blue Sky is, it's like Atlantic shipping is to a U-boat, right? Hunting grounds. Oh my God, it's great. So go to Blue Sky and you'll have a great time. But no, let's go back. He threatened people. That is a crime. She will come back and say, well, he was mentally ill. Don't care. It's still a crime. And they don't get that. They think that being mentally ill gives you carte blanche power to do whatever the hell you want. But no, it doesn't. The law doesn't care. If you look up the self-defense, the statutes for self-defense in any state, they don't give you freedom to do whatever you want if you're mentally ill. They don't say, well, you can't shoot a person in this situation because they're mentally ill. All right. Being mentally ill is of no doubt debilitating. And there's no doubt that, you are extremely disadvantaged by being mentally ill. But ultimately, it's still your problem, not the other person's. If you go walking around threatening people, nobody cares whether you're mentally ill or not, because the law is either going to allow you to take lethal action against that person or not. And whether or not they're crazy has no bearing on anything. But they don't understand that. They think that, well, he was mentally ill. So obviously, the person who choked him to death is guilty. No, it doesn't work like that. They will never understand this, though. And then they go in, and it seems like for some reason, most of the people I talk to end up arguing with themselves later come out and talk about how they're mentally ill. Whatever, man, that doesn't mean you get to win the argument either. Just because you're mentally ill doesn't mean I have to concede to your arguments. And I'm not going to, because I'm right. I'm always right. Has anybody out there ever seen me lose an argument on Twitter? Nope. All right, let's take a look here. I want to see here. Chispa, yeah, okay, we saw that one. Oh, yeah, okay, saw that one. Oh, they mention mental illness all the time. Let's see here. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Okay, not sure what that one meant, but that's all right. Let's see how much longer she blabs on.
But luckily for Daniel Penny, his skin was not like Jordan's, because you honestly wouldn't have seen our face. The NYPD would have arrested him after 3 hours. The justice system would have found him guilty. And shame on this jury, because to be real, they didn't even try. Once the lesser charge was removed, they came back an hour later and said it was deadlock. Less than an hour and 20 minutes later, they said not guilty.
Okay, so she is basically making the claim that the jury should have found Daniel Penny guilty because he was white and the victim was black. And they always do this role reversal thing. Well, what if Daniel Penny was black? And, the other guy was white. I don't know if Daniel Penny's even getting charged at that point. Now, they'll come back and say, that's crazy. Let me put it this way. There is no reason, no solid justification for the claim that if the races were reversed, that it would have been different. If Daniel Penny was black, he could have still been arrested and found not guilty. And they say, that's crazy. Okay, you can prove it to me by showing me a similar case where the races were reversed and they can never find it. You know, this is a myth. We hear it all the time with Kyle Rittenhouse. Well, if Kyle was black, he never would have been able to get out of there alive. Prove it. Prove it. You show me a case where something like that happened, and you can prove it, but they never can. I'm tired of this argument that if the roles were reversed, it's just pure conjecture based on nothing. So I don't fall for it. I tell them, prove it. You're claiming that if the roles were reversed, you show me where this has happened in the past, and I might buy it, but they never can do it. Okay. I think she's almost done, but we'll go ahead.
These wonderful white people, I hope they celebrate their Christmas while the Neely family is praying and asking God for comfort. God damn them and goddamn America.
There you go. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. And finally, Rashad Richey is weighed in. We've been talking about him all night. And keep in mind now, we're going to be hearing from a real legal expert here. He's a scholar. Oh my God. He's got Juris Doctorates up the yin yang. Now, keep in mind, he claimed a Juris Doctorate from Atlanta's John Marshall Law School until we found out that he was kicked out of the school after only one semester. He then claimed that he was getting his Juris Doctorate from the, what was it? Oh, I forget. Oh, yeah, the Birmingham School of Law. And we waited for that moment when he declared his completion, and he never did. And then he claimed that he had transferred over to Renaissance University of Haiti and claimed a Juris Doctorate from them. He never attended that university. He has no Juris Doctorates whatsoever. Nothing. And Erica, I know you're going to be bristling under this, but guess what? I've got the evidence. So go ahead, threaten me with a lawsuit. It doesn't matter. You cannot provide transcripts to show that Rashad has a Juris Doctorate, and you know it. Okay. Let's see what we got here before we begin on here. Yeah, there's no accountability. They just make the claim. What if the roles were reversed? You know, what if? Bad parenting. I think that has a lot to do with it, no doubt. All right, here we go. Just a little bit of a warning. It's going to get dumber because Rashad Richey is now going to weigh in. Okay, let's see here.
We got breaking news. Daniel Penny, the man who killed an individual by choking him, Jordan Neely killed this man while in public transit, has been found not guilty. The man was homeless, going through a difficult day at the time. I'm going to remind you of the incident and then give you the details as to the verdict. Here it is.
Yeah, let's not show the video of anything that happened prior to this. Okay? Or talk about it. He's just going to go right straight to the most violent parts. Typical Rashad Richey. I need to go back for a second because I think wait. The bottom, let me get rid of this. The bottom says indisputable, TYT, but he misspelled indisputable. Oh, geez. Okay.
Put it full mask.
Ooh, he's so mad. And then he says, put it up full mask. Full mask means put it up with a border around it. these images have already been prepared. There's no need to tell the person, put it up full mask, but it makes him sound like he really knows his media stuff, right? That's what it's all about is, image.
Let me give you the background as to what happened. Daniel Penny was acquitted on Monday. Criminally negligent homicide. That was charged, okay? Criminally negligent homicide. That is not murder one.
Murder one. Right out of the movies. Where is it ever called murder one?
Criminally negligent homicide in the chokehold death of Mr. Jordan Neely, a 30-year-old homeless man with a history of mental illness whose final moments on a New York City subway train were captured on bystander video that set off weeks of protest and drew national attention. The decision on the 5th day of deliberations came after the jury deadlocked Friday on the more serious charge of manslaughter, leading the judge to dismiss the manslaughter charge. Penny faced up to 4 years in prison as the jury foreperson read the not guilty verdict.
Now, Daniel Penny was not going to serve any time. While it's a maximum 4 years, this would have been his first offense. He's a Marine veteran. He has never been in trouble. He's actually in architecture school. These are the cases meant for probation. Keep in mind, you say, well, he murdered. No, the guilty verdict would have been just simply criminally negligent homicide. So that's what you have to look at. So first offense at a criminally negligent homicide, that's probation. Okay. Maybe a few months in jail, but he was not going to serve 4 years.
Some observers in the courtroom applauded. Others began to sob and yell, including Mr. Neely's father, Andre Zachary, who was escorted out. Quote, "This is America. This is the sound of Black pain," one person said outside of the courtroom in Lower Manhattan to the reaction. Chants of, quote, "No justice, no peace," could be heard echoing from outside. The case divided people in New York and beyond, in some cases along political and racial lines. Neely was Black, Penny is white.
By the way, I'd like to ask one of them, what does no justice, no peace mean? Come out and tell us. What are you threatening? I don't want no veiled threats here. What are you threatening that you're going to do? And they won't tell you. Muse Skepta says there was a very similar case in Penny a few weeks later. A Black man on subway had his girlfriend punched by a crazy homeless dude. He stabbed homeless dude dead. No charges pressed. We never hear about those cases, do we? Oh, and by the way, there was a Harvard professor who did probably the largest scale study of police brutality when it comes to like serious violence, like shootings and stuff. He found that there was no difference between the way that white police officers responded to Black suspects versus white suspects. And I did a video on that. I think everybody should watch that interview. Okay, anyway, let's get back to it.
Some people view Penny as callous at his actions as criminal. On the day he encountered Neely, who had been shouting and acting erratically when he boarded a subway train in Manhattan on May 1st, 2023.
He was shouting, he was shouting and acting erratically. What was he shouting? Rashad, why are you not telling us that? Are you trying to hide something?
Others contend Penny was selfless and in his attempt to protect fellow passengers. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg said he respected the jury's verdict. The jury deliberated for about an hour on the criminally negligent homicide charge after about 4 days spent considering the manslaughter charge, which, by the way, once again, they were deadlocked. Quote, "Their lengthy deliberation and the totality of the facts and the evidence underscored why this case was put in front of a jury.
And by the way, the fact that they deliberated for 4 days on the more serious charge, but only deliberated for about an hour on the lesser one, indicates to me, and I could be wrong, but it indicates to me that there was probably no more than 1 or 2 holdouts for guilty. And once they went to the lesser charge, those holdouts said, screw it. I want to go and to my family. I got Christmas coming. And so they just simply went over to the not guilty side. Because I cannot imagine, excuse me, the booze does it to me. But I cannot imagine that if there had been a large number of people wanting him to be convicted for the more serious charge, that they would have deliberated for only an hour on the lesser one. That makes no sense whatsoever. That's just me.
Of Mr. Penny's peers, Bragg said in a statement. The anonymous jury, made up of 7 women and 5 men, were told before they began deliberating that they had to come to a unanimous decision on the top charge of manslaughter in the second degree before moving on to consider criminally negligent homicide. But basically, the judge, eradicated that when he dismissed it. Okay.
Oh, by the way, we have a question here. How have there ever been an investigation of Rashad Richey? If he wants to earn money from people with bad experiences earlier in life and support their hate instead of trying to help people. Well, there has been an investigation of him. There's been a very thorough investigation of him. And in fact, the detective agency investigated all the claims that we had been making. Unfortunately, the detective agency has an office in the same building as Rashad, and they know each other. He actually commissioned his own investigation. And then the report that they wrote was littered with all the stuff that Rashad had been writing about himself. So he basically investigated himself. And of course, what did he find? Well, he has all of these academic degrees are valid, never minding the fact that one of the things that they never collected during this investigation were transcripts. And in fact, the only evidence they had that Rashad Richey had these degrees was his claims that he had them. And I am not joking you. So at any rate, yeah, there's been an investigation, all right, but he commissioned it and he wrote the report. In a more serious note here, it's a good question as to why people have been hiring this guy and going along with what he's doing. Well, that's a tough one. Now, there have been, he got axed from WAOK recently. And it looks like iHeartRadio has axed him as well. So maybe those channels have been getting a hold of the fact that this guy is a total fraud. But the Young Turks still allowing this guy a platform basically undermines their credibility 100%. I mean, whatever you feel about Anna Kasparian and Cenk Ungar, or whatever his name is, I don't think they're frauds. Anna actually comes across to me as a pretty bona fide real person. And Cenk is kind of way out there. I mean, he's a hard leftist, and I disagree with him. But he at least looks like he's genuine. This guy is a 100% grade A phony, and they allow him to have this channel on their platform. I have no idea why. But as I said, Rashad has the golden tongue. He somehow manages to convince people that he has all these accolades and they don't seem to question them. Let's see, here we go. WAOK, yes, it is. It's a woke outlet out of Atlanta. Okay, go back.
To me, the jury got it wrong. All right, that's my opinion. And the reason I say that is because the provocation of violence never happened. This was a man who seemingly was having a mental health day. All right?
Doesn't matter. Rashad, you got to learn the laws of self-defense and the defense of others, and he doesn't understand those laws. It doesn't matter whether the guy was having an episode of no fault of his own. It doesn't matter. All that matters is the accused, what were his perceptions? Did he think that this man posed a threat to others? And was that thought reasonable? And did he feel that he had to do what he did to stop the threat? That's all that matters. The motive of the person that died, in this case here, Jordan Neely, is completely irrelevant. And I've been arguing about this on Blue Sky, where people keep talking about how, well, Jordan Neely never meant to hurt anybody. It doesn't matter. You don't get to look in hindsight and find out if the person was serious or not. All that matters is what did what did Daniel Penny perceive? And were those perceptions reasonable? And were his actions reasonable given what he was perceiving? That's all that matters. And Rashad will never understand that in a million freaking years. It was just like with Kyle Rittenhouse. Well, the guys that were chasing Kyle thought that Kyle was a bad dude. He had just shot somebody. They were only trying to protect others. It makes no difference. All that matters is what was Kyle perceiving? And Kyle perceived a legit threat to his life. He can take action. Whether Gage Grosskreutz had a claim of self-defense is of no consequence whatsoever. Both sides can claim self-defense legitimately. And if you don't understand the law of self-defense, then you'll never get that. And Rashad doesn't understand law at all. Although on my recent show, I pointed out that when it comes to laws about being arrested, he seems to know something about those, but nothing else. And by the way, my most recent video, he actually claimed, and I'm being serious here, that breaking into somebody's home to arrest them is okay as long as it turns out that they're guilty. I mean, it's like, never mind the Fourth Amendment. No. So yeah, the man is a moron. What can you say? Okay, let's see here. What else do I got here? Yeah, I think that the jury could have been mad, or they could have just been tired. Like, look, think about it in their way of looking at it. If you're the holdout and you want a guilty verdict, but there's only like another one of you, there's only two of you, and you've been holding out for 4 days, and the judge says, hey, we're not doing it. Let's go to the lesser charge. I can see that juror saying, oh, screw it. It's not worth it. I mean, the only thing they got him on now is this lesser charge where he's probably not going to do much. And am I going to sit here and hold out for another 4 days for this? I mean, you'll hold out for 4 days for a murder conviction because it's really big and important. But are you going to hold out for 4 days over disorderly conduct? I mean, probably not. So I think that the jurors that were holding out, I think they just kind of gave up. Let's see here. Yeah, there might have only been one. And by the way, I'd like to throw out an idea here. What if the idea is that if you have a hung jury, and if the majority are saying innocent, call it a day. Dismiss with prejudice, we're done. If the majority are going for guilty, we're going to do another trial. What do you think? I think that that's fair. Because the job of the prosecutor is to prove beyond reasonable doubt. And if the majority of the jurors are saying you haven't done your job, why do you get a second chance at it? You failed. You didn't do your job. We're done. Too bad. Anyway, that's my idea. And think about how easy that would make it on everybody. Let's see here. Did I see this one yet? Okay. Okay, I've kind of lost track of what that refers to, so I'm gonna have to move on. I've been on Blue Sky for about a week. Let's see here. Yeah, you got to consider both sides. That is true. And if the jurors had come back with a guilty verdict, I might have initially had agreed, but then I have to think, well, wait a minute. What did they perceive? What was the evidence given to them? Why did they do a guilty verdict? Maybe he was guilty. You at least have to be open to that, but they're not. They only see black guy killed, white dude accused, guilty. That's and I'm not oversimplifying it. That's how they perceive it. Yep. How woke is Blue Sky? It's very woke. It's funny because you go into Blue Sky and it's almost all liberal now, right? It's an enclave for liberals, and you kind of find out what liberals are like. And I see lots of nature photos, lots of cat photos, a lot of talk about rappers, and a lot of talk about, I would only call them musical groups that you would hear in Starbucks. So you look at that and they have a distinctly different culture than that on Twitter, where it's mostly right wing. And their music selection sucks. Okay, but continue on.
And if you took the prerequisite of shouting and acting somewhat erratic as excusable pretense in order to kill someone, then you can kill 1/5 of the people right now who may be at Fulton County Jail and other places where they incarcerate the mentally ill.
Okay, wait a minute. 20% of the population does this? 20% of the population goes around acting erratically like they're on drugs or crazed lunatics? No, it's probably like 1%, 2%. Come on, Rashad. And also, Rashad, you're not mentioning the fact that he wasn't just shouting. He was threatening people. And Rashad just simply will not admit that. He is going to move away from that as far as he can. And this is disingenuous. I mean, look, it wouldn't be hard to say, look, I realize that he was shouting, threats against others, and then explain why the killing of him would still be inexcusable. And if you can't, then you're on the wrong side of the verdict. But he has to basically avoid it, because if there's one thing that permeates Rashad's psyche, it's dishonesty. He is fake to the bone. Nothing about him is real. Nothing. He has pictures of his daughter on Twitter. You think, okay, finally we got something real. He's got a daughter. Yeah, he claimed it wasn't his. The courts had to force him to take a DNA test before he would admit that it was his daughter. So nothing about this guy is genuine. Okay.
There's no justification for killing. And the way it happened, people lied initially to protect this individual, really was to protect themselves. They came out in court and said so. They embellished what really happened until video or bystander said contrary to their on the record statements. And then one guy tried to hide from the police who was involved in the incident itself.
And he's complaining that witnesses may have embellished their testimony. Oh, you mean like they did in Ferguson? In Ferguson, Missouri, Michael Brown clearly attacked a police officer. The police officer, Darren Wilson, took action and shot him dead. Michael Brown's buddy, Dorian Johnson, ran off and then later circled back and gave interviews to the media claiming that Michael Brown had his hands up and was yelling, "Don't shoot." Dorian Johnson lied. But as soon as the bystanders heard Dorian saying that, they all came out of the woodwork and said, yeah, he had his hands up and he was yelling, "Don't shoot." But we now know that Dorian lied about the whole thing. And all these people made up the story to corroborate Dorian because they wanted to get a white cop convicted. And how do we know that they made it up? They admitted it. In the grand jury, a large percentage of those who said that they saw Michael Brown with his hands up admitted that they made it up because they wanted to be a part of something. They wanted to help convict him. The others didn't show up. When they were called for the grand jury, they didn't even show up for it. And so of all, I think there was like 14 of these witnesses who claimed the hands up, don't shoot deal. Not a single one of them held up to scrutiny. However, there were plenty of witnesses who said that didn't happen at all, that Darren Wilson, the cop, acted in self-defense, and those testimonies held up under scrutiny. Yet the lies persist. And now we have here Rashad Richey complaining that people may have embellished their perceptions of what happened, which they shouldn't do, okay? But I'm just saying it's really hypocritical of him to complain about this because he's all about the Michael Brown being an innocent victim deal. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, there's a difference, I guess. Wonder how we could teach people lying to get someone's life ruined, responsible without it costing too much. Yeah, I don't know. But at some point, this has got to end. You can't make up stories to try to get people convicted. That's totally, there has to be some repercussions for that.
What's very sad is this point. The jurors across America in particular, have been desensitized to the reality of the sanctity of human life. They don't value it. I want you to think about how the wheels of justice move for people who are important to them and how it's slow to move for people who are not.
Yeah, the juries, they don't value human life. All 12 of them, all 12 people don't value human life. Notice he likes to talk about juries as a conglomerate group, but no, they're individuals. There's 12 of them. They all come from different walks of life. Some of them are probably not very nice people. Some of them are probably very nice people, but they come from different walks of life. And all 12 of them have agreed that they don't value human life. Really? Okay.
This is just part of that system. And don't think these systems are contrary to people, or contrary to the people who run them. These systems are permeations of the people who run them. And sometimes those systems also include members of a jury. All right, dear brother, thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, this is just BS. At the end of the day, it just is like there.
Yeah, this is some great legal scholar here coming in. This is just BS. Yeah, this is some intern that he has on the show. I have a feeling that these interns are the ones that write his theses and all those articles and stuff, whatever. But yeah, this is not going to be an in-depth legal analysis at all.
There are so many other things that could have been done. Even if you're going to put them in a chokehold, maybe not quite as hard, maybe not for quite as long. You know, as if you weren't aware that he was being incapacitated, even if he would have got hit in the face or something, that he probably wouldn't be dead today. So at the end.
Yeah. Instead of putting him in a chokehold, what Daniel Penny should have done was hit him in the face, because that always takes care of, an insane person, right? What would have been the charge? That would have been assault and battery. How would that have saved Daniel Penny? I mean, putting him in a chokehold, detaining him, keeping him from getting to people makes some sense. Maybe Daniel Penny applied the chokehold too severely. Okay, that's possible. All right. However, hitting Neely in the face would not be a reasonable reaction. Again, this is not exactly your legal scholar talking here.
End of the day, a man is dead unnecessarily. And it just really, excuse me, it's just really crazy how, certain elements of this country, including people on the left, want black people to act like America isn't racist. And it's examples like this that show, yes, it still is structurally and institutionally.
Yeah.
I mean, if you even if you take this to the election, right? Donald Trump, a man who should be in prison, a man who
sooner or later, they have to mention Trump. Trump derangement syndrome. I used to think that was just some BS that was made up, right? But no, it's a real malady. I mean, nothing here has anything to do with Donald Trump, but they just have to mention him. Let's see what we got here. Oh, we saw that one. Oh, yeah, the sanctity of human life. Well, with Rashad Richey, it's hard to say whether that it satisfies that, because you can't pin him down on anything because he has no anchor. He has no moral anchor on anything. It's all race-based. I don't like Trump. I don't blame him for everything. I don't like him either. I've said it many times. And in fact, my recent video, I said, I think he's a jerk. He's a jackass. I didn't have any choice but to vote for him because I'm not a big fan of socialism. Okay. In fact, I hate socialism. So I voted for Trump, but I'm not a Trump fan. No. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, here there was a problem with the cause of death, and there was some dispute about whether the chokehold killed Neely or it was the drugs. And we saw that before with the Derek Chauvin case, right? And was that the thing that gave the jury the most trouble? I have no way of knowing. Maybe that was it.
who had dozens and dozens of felonies, literally tried to overthrow the country, and yet he can be the president again. Then they talk about Kamala, and it's like, oh, well, she wasn't perfect, and she didn't do X, Y, and Z. It's like, but
oh, by the way, let's mention Trump's criminal records, whatever. But Jordan Neely's, no, that's irrelevant. We can't talk about those. So that's another case. When you have a police officer shooting a suspect, okay, let's say it's a black suspect. They go in and look at the police officer's record. Oh, he's been cited for whatever, and they go make a big deal out of that. But then if you go in and look at the criminal record of the one shot, oh no, we can't do that. You're blaming the victim. Oh, brother.
But everything that Trump did, that was good enough for him, right? Man who ran on a campaign of nothing but racism and gibberish, he's where he is. Then we see stuff like this. A black man gets killed in a subway. Oh, you can go free. You were just trying to defend the people. It's okay. Black man gets shot. Black man gets shot again by police, gets his neck stood on. We just supposed to accept all of this stuff and pretend.
Oh, by the way, what was the racial makeup of the people that Penny was protecting? Were they all white supremacists? No. If I recall, the people that he was protecting were mostly black. And that's another thing that you find here. They always complain, well, the police are always cruising through these black neighborhoods and arresting people left and right. Because they're trying to protect the community of mostly black people. The elderly black man and his wife, they want to be able to go to the store peacefully and not worry about being robbed. They have rights too. And so the police go into those areas and they do felony sweeps and all that kind of stuff because they're trying to make the community there safer for the other people. But these people rally around the criminals every time. The people on the subway, they don't care about them. All of the, there's black people and Asians, and there's probably Muslims and all that. They're on that subway. They don't care about them. They only care about the criminal. And I'm really tired of this. You're on patrol, you're going through a really tough neighborhood. You see a car running around 3 o'clock in the morning, dragging its tailpipe. You're going to pull them over because you're going to look for felony warrants. And why are you doing that? Because you're trying to protect that community. And that community is mostly black people. Those people that live there, they have rights too. They want to be able to go to the store and not get shot. But all these people here think about are the criminals themselves. And that is a major part of our problem in this country. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Yeah, it's the same thing with executions. He's being executed. This is horrible. Well, tell me what he did. Then I'll tell you how horrible the execution is. And it's the same thing here. They never want to tell you what the person did to get himself into such trouble. Okay. And Jordan Neely was not innocent in this. And I don't care if he was deranged or not. Sorry. Not an excuse. Yeah, agreed. Oh, if the courts used the same investigation, there wouldn't be a trial, right? They would just look at the races involved.
And the racist elements of white America, because clearly not all white people are like this, but a huge chunk of them are, or they just put their head in the sand and don't care. We're supposed to act like, oh, well, it's just because people don't have free healthcare. That's why they're okay with all this racism. Like, no. Racism is still very real, and it's the foundations of how this country was made. And this is just yet another example of it. So every day, black and brown people have to deal with this and then listen to certain elements of the country be like, oh, no, that's not what's going on. Like, no, clearly that's what's going on. What does the right wing talk about constantly? DEI. There's too many black and brown people in corporate America. If you're there, you were a DEI hire. There's too many black and brown people in the country. Black and brown people are criminals. Gay people need to go back in the closet. Women need to be. That's all they talk about. It is all they talk about. But all of a sudden, when things get.
By the way, why do you think that Kamala Harris lost the election? You're listening to it. This is why she lost. Because this is his understanding of how America is. And Kamala, she bought into this. And she found out the hard way that not everybody, in fact, most people don't buy into this logic at all. Yeah. As long as they keep talking like this, they're going to keep losing elections.
Real, that's not the issue. No, that is the issue, and we need to stop pretending like it isn't.
That's right. That's right. Well said.
Okay, let's see here. Finally, okay. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I think I've showed you all I wanted to show you tonight. I appreciate you stopping in again. Go to my channel, The Johnny Walker Dread Show. Subscribe to my channel. I devote a lot of time and attention towards the myth of police brutality. It's a myth. Too many people have bought into it. And that's been a real sore point. I mean, I really feel that a lot of these populations are just not going to move forward until they get past this. The problem is that they really dwell in victimhood. They love to play the victim. In my opinion, being a victim is never a strength. It's only a weakness. Being a victim isn't going to do you anything in the long run. All it's going to do is make you feel comfortable in the short term. Essentially, what they're doing is feeling sorry for themselves. And how does that ever help you? Name me a time that feeling sorry for yourself ever did something for you. And you can't. On a final note, I'm still pissed off that my Oklahoma Sooners they were passed over for the college football playoffs. I mean, this is just so unfair. Oh, so at any rate, maybe next year, right? Let's see. Any final comments here before we go? Yeah, I mean, really, the right doesn't mention gay people much anymore. I mean, they used to. I get that. But okay, you're right. Absolutely. He certainly looks like it there. I will say this: he came in with no preparation. I mean, I don't think he had any idea what he was going to say. But then again, Rashad isn't much better. Well, I did capture him at an interesting moment here. But at any rate, hey, thanks everybody for piling in. I appreciate it. And I am recording this, so it'll be on YouTube. And what I'm going to do is take chunks of it out and post them as individual videos as well. So I'm done for the night. I will see you later. And thanks again. And go to my channel and subscribe.